We care about our own kids. We care about our athletes. We care about the success. We care about all that. And I think that that's what they miss when they don't hire women for these top jobs.
Parenting has changed my skill set, right? Like, I think that I've become a better coach because of being a parent.
I am literally multitasking right now, and I can share, my my attention to both. Okay, snack time is almost ready.
Mentorship.
I'm Alex Del Sordo, and this is another Coaches Yelling, and this is a part 2. So yesterday we recorded part 1 of Moms in Rowing, Women in Rowing, and if you see here, if you're watching, you see an all-women's cast, and these are leaders of our industry. These are individuals, women that have made rowing a career, that have changed the sport as we know it, and continue to change it every single day that they're involved in rowing. And I could not be more excited. I'm even getting chills right now thinking about their careers and their successes. And we're going to get all into that, but we're going to get into some topics that I think are really important for us to discuss. And if you're new to the show, which is great to see or hear, if you like, dislike, agree, disagree, whatever, give us your feedback, give us your topics, like talk to us. We want to know how to make this show better. We want to know how to make rowing better. And that's pretty much what this is. We all have the same intentions here, good intentions for the sport to grow and to be better. And up first, this is unbelievable. Olympic gold medalist, ED at McGonagall, I got it, McGonagall.
Yeah.
Ohio State world champion, Syracuse, Anna Goodale, welcome to the show. Thank
you. Thank you, Alex. I'm really excited to be here, and I love what you guys are doing. It's absolutely awesome.
Oh, I am thrilled to hear that. And you're like rowing royalty. This is so cool. I'm like so thrilled about this. And I'm actually, you're a mother of 2, right?
Correct.
This is going to be a really great perspective that I think that you're going to bring to the table. So thank you for being here. Yeah, next up is the co-head coach of Greenwich Water Club, a former Brown rower, NCAA champion, Catherine Starr. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
You remind me of Mike Wallen. Just few words, doesn't take a whole lot. But this is great. And I think that you are a mother of 1. Is that right? A 3-year-old?
Yep.
I love the perspective. It's going to be great.
Sassy human.
Next up, the ED of NorCal, been around rowing for a very long time, a Boilermaker, I believe, right, from Purdue. Beth Anderson, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Yeah, I went to Purdue, but I got my graduate degree at Purdue. So actually, I'm a UCLA. I'm a Bruin, go Bruins. So.
Well, I'm excited for you to make it here. And you got a good history with rowing, so I love the perspective. I love getting a chance to see what people have to say about rowing from all ages and for all years. Now, next up, now Sarah, I'm going to butcher your last name. I am so sorry. Puddiecombe, I think. You are a 3-time All-American. You are the head varsity coach of Capital Crew. You are a badass voice in rowing. I'm so excited for you to be here. A mother of 2. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited, and I'm just gonna say I'm nervous, but I'm excited.
I'll tell you, you are all brand new to the show, so I need to warn you. You have 90 seconds to answer these questions. If I'm gonna get my clock set up here. If I like or dislike what you have to say, it's thumbs up or down. Okay. I'm going to add up the points, and the person the 3 people with the most points move on to the next round, which is the Coaches Yelling. At the end of that, we crown a winner. Now, because this is more of like a coach's discussion, all 4 of you might advance. I don't know. I mean, I gotta make that decision here as we get on. But Anna, you're first up, and I asked the same question yesterday to the 4 women yesterday. What do we need to do in our sport to get more women in leadership positions, potentially athletic directors, EDs, or head coaches? You are on the clock.
I think the biggest struggle for me in being a mom and being a coach is the fact that I had to choose between the 2 a lot. And so figuring out how to not make it a choice, between being a coach and being a mom, and not needing to decide between those two would be huge, because I've coached at a very high level, and I felt like my motherhood suffered because of that. I mean, I really, really enjoyed it. I thought I grew as a coach, I grew as a human, but I was not the mom that I wanted to be. And it got to the point where things happened in my life and I had to step away from it, in all honesty, to be more of the mom that I really needed to be. And that was a really big choice, and something that I wish I didn't have to make.
Well, so how does our sport discourage motherhood in this world? Like, what made you feel that way?
Well, I think coaching in general, and specifically in our sport, takes a ton of time and a ton of attention, and so does parenthood. So, it's our coaching is not just a 2-hour job or a 4-hour job. Our jobs eat and breathe and walk. So when you have both of those entities that are constantly craving your attention and asking for your, emails and calls and all that stuff, it just becomes so overloaded. I think there really is a way to do both. I'm figuring it out now at a very different level.
Okay, Anna, you're going to learn how to consolidate.
Yeah.
I appreciate your point of view. I mean, you're saying that our sport does not encourage, and I think this is really in other industries. It's not just, I'm not just pointing out rowing, but you're right. You have to make the decision, and that's a very hard decision to make. So next, not bad, 4 points, not bad. We've had others get 2 points, and we've had others get 9 points. So you're right in the middle. Catherine, same question for you. What do we have to do in our sport to get more women in leadership roles? EDs, head coaches, directors, you name it. You're on the clock.
I think, first of all, I didn't know this competition, but I'm ready. I think that if you want to make a conscious effort to support it, you have to ask these people into these roles. And I think that feels like a negative mark for women. But I also think that we don't always step into it. So, I think we have to encourage ourselves, but I also think you have to ask us. I think that's it. And then I think when you ask us, you have to back it up with support and resources, because as Anna said, we have incredibly divided attention, and that is not because we want that. We have that because, we are human beings and we have encompassing life factors. So, I need to be able to cover childcare. I have hours and I want to invest everything in this sport, but I need to be able to care for my child. I need to be able to do that well. And I need the flexibility and support to do that as well.
Are you pointing out inequality in pay here?
I think that's probably one thing, but I think also that's a societal level change, right? Like if I could get affordable childcare and it was brought, into something, whether it's pay, and I mean, my employer has, childcare matching program or, funding program, whatever, tax-free, that I appreciate. But I think that there are other things also having maternity leave.
I gotta do it. I'm so sorry. Kevin, I gotta keep it going. But a question for you before I move on to Beth. Have you ever had to bring your child to a practice?
I brought her to a regatta. I brought her to an indoor practice, right? She's 3. I'm not going to bring her on a launch yet. I want to bring her because I want her to see female athletes doing something amazing.
Okay. Beth, you're up now. I'm going to get the clock ready. What do we need to do in our sport to get women in leadership roles and more leadership roles? You're on the clock.
Well, first of all, I have to answer Catherine. Catherine, everything's a competition, so don't think it's not. And second, I have 4 kids, and I had my first one when I was coaching at UC Davis, and I just took her everywhere. She, unfortunately, according to my husband, you don't know, accidents are going to happen, so therefore don't take that baby in the motorboat. So I would hand her off to someone on land. But, But I took her everywhere. At 2 months, no, actually at 6 weeks, we went on a road trip and she slept the entire way in the truck, which was great, except that when we got there, she was not sleeping. So, but I think that you have to allow these kids to be part of what you're doing. My kids think that every spring you go to San Diego. They just thought everybody went to San Diego. And I believe that, they have to know how hard you work, and they know they know by just, I'm like, I have to check my email really fast before we can go to the park. And the kids are like, oh yeah, I have to check my email when they're like 6 months, So I think it's really important that they know you're working and that they know that you're giving them as much as you can while you're doing it.
So Beth, how do we get more women in coaching positions? Like, what do we need to do to get more women in those positions?
I think we have to break down actually what the men athletic directors are hiring for, because, we coach and we coach really well. And we also do, we manage our time really well, but they have to be more flexible in what their expectations are.
Okay, so I really appreciate Beth's perspective here. You're actually bringing onus to ourselves and saying, you know what, we just have to get our children to understand this is the way of life and get that support from day one. I love that. But also, we're going to touch more on what athletic directors want. I love that. We're going to get more into that in other areas of the show. Sarah, you're up here. Closing out question number 1, what do we do to get more women in power? You're on the clock.
Well, I think I'm going to kind of touch a little bit on what Catherine was saying. Like, you have to ask the women. Like, you can't make assumptions that the women aren't going to say yes. So don't not offer the job to a very qualified candidate because you're like, oh, or they've got 2 small children, they might not want this job. It's like, no, you have to ask. Let the candidate, let the woman figure out. Part of that puzzle of figuring it out though is like, yeah, what resources are available? Like, I applied for head coaching jobs in the collegiate scene, and honestly, I was afraid to ask what resources are available to me because I didn't want it to be a weakness. I didn't want it to be seen as a weakness of, oh, this candidate's not going to be able to give us the full attention. So I think the more conversations like this we have is incredibly helpful in empowering. Also making it, make it a choice where they can say yes in terms of like, this is the structure we need you to do. Like, I think a lot of women don't automatically see themselves as leaders, but they are incredible educators. They're incredible coaches, mentors, and all of that creates a great leader. So just a support network, mentorship, women in leadership roles in the AD level, at the executive director level, reach out to the younger, like, rising stars and say, you can do this and you need to say yes. Just because you're afraid to say no, say yes.
I love that. Sarah, I'm so sorry I have to cut you off. It's part of the show, but you're going to stay on because you're going to go right into question number 2.
Okay.
Is very simply put, if you were in charge of the rowing world, what changes would you make right now to make these things happen? Like, what would you do right now? What changes would you make? Sweeping changes, whatever, to put more women in power? You're on the clock.
Yeah, well, I would kind of steal, right? We're all coaches, we'll all steal a little bit. I would steal kind of the model of the level 2, level 3 coaching certificate, right? Like, I think we need to pair strong women role models with younger women who want to get into coaching. Like, Beth, will you be my mentor? Like, let's ping pong ideas and actually assign people a network. I think when you interviewed Sarah Lowe from Atlanta Juniors, she mentioned this network that we have, a grassroots network, and that we're all a part of. It's pretty passive right now. I love it. But yeah, let's take it to the next level and let's actually pair some people up, I know I've bounced ideas. What's that? Oh.
I love that idea. Keep going.
Yeah, so mentorship I think is awesome, and then so that people can see real world examples of, yes, you can manage and balance and have that family balance that everybody wants, and I think is what is limiting a lot of women in going forward. I know I want to do a quick.
Keep going.
Oh, so I was coaching, a collegiate coach. I was a high school coach. Collegiate coach came in, recruiting. She's like, oh, you love this. Sarah Nevin from Mills College was like, are you going to do this as a career? I was like, you can't do this. And she's like, what do you think I'm doing, Sarah? And I was like, wow, I can make this a career. So, yeah.
So this is, this is a really important thing. I think, and I'm going to go the diversity route here, but if you have young boys and girls in the inner city streets and they see someone of like body and mind performing something at the highest level, they know they can achieve it. women in rowing, right? If you have role models that you can look up to, you know that that could be possible. Women in leadership positions, if you know they're out there and they're available, use them as mentors, use them as springboards to say, oh, I can do this. And I think what you're saying here in your solution is make it a voice, right? Give women a voice at those positions, express that they're there, and you'll have the younger crowd seeing them as opportunities to do that in the future. Next up is Beth. So Beth, we're going to bring you on in here. If you were in a leadership position, if you just could say, this is how we're doing it, how would you empower women? What solutions would you have to even the playing field and get more at the top level? You're on the clock.
I think there's a bunch of things. One, you have to educate them, right? And you have to also educate, I mean, like I had to educate my husband. Yeah, he makes a lot more money than I do, but guess what? We made these children together. It took 50% of him and me to make all these children. And, you know, at 3 o'clock on my way to the boathouse, I would drop them at his shop and they would hang out there and do homework until he could get them to their afternoon activities. So you have to make it work. And I don't think it's always up to the woman, like to fix everything, right? I think that's what we feel and that's what our parents had, but it's not necessarily just up to us. It takes two, and it needs to be a lot more collaborative. And not everyone can participate in that, but I do believe that it teaches our kids the right message. And, you know, and sometimes we can't do stuff, right? Our kids want to go here and we're like, yeah, that's not going to happen. You know, I didn't let my kids participate in any spring sports because I was traveling every weekend. And it was just too hard to get 4 kids in and out of sports. So I think mentorship, you know, I talk a lot to the other women coaches in the country. I talk to Sandy Armstrong, who's unbelievable. I talk to a lot of people and bounce ideas. I never necessarily make a decision all by myself. I usually have people I can call and talk to. And, you know, there aren't any secrets, right? Like we're not inventing a virus vaccine. We are coaching kids. We're trying to make them all better kids. So let's be collaborative and actually like teach each other. Like somebody asks me something, I'll tell them anything they want to know. I have no secrets.
I love it. We're gonna keep rolling on this one because I like the momentum here. So Catherine, we're gonna bring you on. Again, if you were the solution maker here, you were saying this is how we do it. How do we do it? You're on the clock.
I think I would just, you know, echo what Sarah's saying with mentorship and being able to be shown a path. You don't have to drag me onto it, but I need to know sort of the steps in front of me. I think I had Sarah actually as somebody I saw is actually a mentor for me, and she's sitting here. She and Vanessa were successfully coaching at Cal. It was incredible to see them do that. And, you know, it just made me so game to go and do this well and have a child and be doing this as a female. I rode for Phoebe Murphy, the lesser, I think, celebrated but very impactful Murphy, and she, you know, kind of put into my head that you could be this powerful person and really make it happen. And Lori. So I think all of these people that I was exposed to showed me that I could do this. And I also had somebody tell me in high school that their life's ambition had been to be a coach. And I think that made it okay for me to not think of my career path as secondary. Like, I think I had friends who were going out there and they were, you know, into iBanking and all this. And so this path of being a successful female coach was something that I could have in my head and I could take active steps toward instead of sort of falling through. So to put women into that position, I do think, you know, it is this mentoring aspect of it. I think that really pulls people along.
Time. So you know, it's, if more than one person says we need mentorship, then there's a simple solution, and we just need to create that, and that needs to come from the top, right? You need to have some organization or some governing body to say, we're creating a mentorship, here it is, and open it to the public. So I love talking about this, but I also love coming up with solutions. So Anna, closing out the second question here. It's been a while since you've been on. Okay, I know you've been listening, but you're ready. What do we do? You know the question. You're on the clock.
So I think there's a really big difference, or I heard this at one point, that there's a difference between men and women, that men will apply for a job before they're ready because they have a certain confidence, but as women, we have to feel really, really prepared in order to apply for a job. So I think that and it comes towards the mentoringship, empowering young coaches to go for it, to apply for jobs is a huge way to get more people into it, because we are not going to apply for the jobs that necessarily we could be completely qualified for, because we don't feel ready. And the truth is, especially as a parent, you know, taking on something bigger and something better is really overwhelming, right? But you have to have the confidence to be able to do that. The other thing that comes up for me is educating, kind of like we talked about before, where kind of understanding what athletic directors want, but also educating athletic directors and educating the higher ups to take those risks, right? And to say, this is the reason why this could be an incredible opportunity and an incredible support for you, not just in equalization, but as a human being and as a role model and as a coach, this is the way, this is a really, really good option, right? Just as good as the female or the male counterpart.
Wow. All right. Well, that's a good way to close that off. So when we get back from our sponsors, I'm going to tally up the scores, so I need a couple seconds here. And we're going to roll right into the Coaches Young. So more from us here in a few seconds. And we're back. So this is a tight race, and we decided to keep everybody on. And I said this in the beginning, it's a coach's discussion. If you like, dislike, agree, disagree with anything that they're saying, give us your feedback. Now's the time. So we're going to get into the coaches yelling, which we always compare to us sitting at a bar, having a couple drinks after a long regatta, where every rower just wants to talk, and here's that chance. So I'm going to open this up for everybody, okay? And the question, get things rolling, can you share some examples of times or things that you had to overcome as a mother in our sport, or things that made it uncomfortable that we could then learn from and have solutions? I'm going to start the clock in 3, 2, 1. We're open for discussion. We're on.
I think there's a lot of things that we've all had to overcome. I think every one of us have had to have a child at a regatta site at one point or another. And that in itself comes with challenges. I mean, having to bus and sometimes being the driver of the vehicle because you're the coach and you're like, well, where do I fit a car seat? You know, thank God that my mom was able to travel with us and she had to rent her own vehicle and tow the child, you know, behind us.
Yeah. And the other part of that, Sarah, is you're at a regatta and it's not safe around water with toddlers. So you have to watch them all the time. You know, and I remember when my husband was at a regatta and he rowed one day and he's like, watch your children. And I was like, oh yeah, of course I'll watch my children. But of course I didn't watch my children. And then of course someone else watched my children for me. So you have to be really aware of what your capabilities are at a regatta with little teeny kids and water. Like they can't swim.
Right. I've had to leave my kids at home because I either didn't feel safe bringing them or it just wasn't a feasible, like my son was 2 years old, which is not young, but going on a spring training trip for a week, that's a big deal to be away from him for the first time for that long. And there's a constant.
Unable to bring them? And were you unable to bring them, or did you just not feel it was appropriate?
No, I don't think it was really part of the discussion. I was a young coach and I probably could have fought for it and I probably could have asked for it, but it didn't feel like an option at all.
And I think that also is really hard because it feels like the assumption is that when you do that, if you choose to bring your child, that your attention is divided. And I can tell you that, like, when I bring my child, when I have to do things like that, my attention and my focus is like, I'm working twice as hard to make this work.
Especially if it's just you, you know, like if it's just
you.
But
and your attention is divided.
Crazy.
Right? Your attention is divided, but as junior coaches, don't you feel that we have all those parents looking out for us? You know, like and maybe not on the collegiate level, because when I coached in college, I would hand my baby off to parents and give them bottles, and then I would just like see the baby at the end of the day. But as a junior coach, I feel like we're kind of in a great position to be coaches because
I don't think that would fly though, Beth. I honestly don't think that would fly. Like I'm jealous of you. That I wish I could do it now. Now I'd be like, what? I mean, I've had parents offer, and I'm like, no. I'm fine.
Oh yeah. You always just go, here you go. Here's the job. I gotta go. Or you know, the other thing is, I would take a spare kid with me and I'd be like, look, your main job if you don't row is actually to watch my children.
No.
I would pay for their ticket. I would pay for their ticket and they wanted to go.
No, they know that. that kid nowadays is going to complain to the athletic director and being like, I am being unfairly targeted and being forced to babysit without pay. You know, like it's not happen. Like, no. I mean, I definitely, when I traveled to nationals as a junior head coach for the first time, I'm all the way from California to Sarasota. I thought I was done breastfeeding. I was like, it'll be fine. Mom's first time out, right? Nope. Had to go to the grocery store at 10 p.m., getting the cabbage, and taking a cold shower because I didn't bring a pump. I didn't bring the child. And now I've got issues. Like, not fun, but it's the reality.
Issues, the baby's
have to deal with.
All right, Catherine, you've been itching to say something. Let me hear what you have to say.
Oh God, no, I mean, I know this is the part where I just, this is not a competition, but I definitely have pumped in a porta potty, which is like one of the most harrowing things, but I think not the most that people have gone through. I think it's also, I think Anna brought it up earlier, but, parenting has changed my skill set, right? Like, I think that I've become a better coach because of being a parent, but I also, I don't like to use the term mom guilt, but I feel really stretched also as like a sort of, maybe Beth, I'm so jealous of that feeling of just being able to hand off your child because I feel
you should have 3 more.
I know.
Just have 3 more. It'll be fine.
I just got to raise my own babysitters. No, but I feel like I'm compelled to do it 100%. And so I think maybe that is also like trying to figure out how to take a little pressure off myself.
100%, you can't be on coaching and on 100%. So it's this division of time and labor. Trying to do both at the same time mean they both suffer.
Yeah.
And,
like the point though, Catherine, in terms of saying that it's made you a better coach, and
because
being
I think
a head coach for you and also like a head coach now, I feel that I am empowered now to bring my children to site, to bring my children to
That's
practice.
A really interesting point.
And I feel like it has helped me in terms of understanding and
I think it's also forced me to balance myself a little bit, right? Like where my previous experience was to just pour my heart and soul into something, which I still do with this team. I think that's so important. But I also have learned to set boundaries because, we're talking, I have a child who is walking around right now telling me she's got to take Zoom calls, and she walks around holding a cell phone going, no, excuse me, no, excuse me, no, excuse me. So like,
yeah. My son used to be like, I can go to the pool, but first I have to check my email. And he'd be like, he's like 3. I'm like, yeah, dude. Okay, cool. I think I say that too much. I think, go ahead.
So if the regattas around the world offered daycare, right, like on-site daycare, do you think that's a good solution to some of these problems? Would you be willing to hand off your child at a daycare provided by the regattas?
Yeah,
I personally, but I'm an anomaly, and I would hand my child to most people that breed. So yeah.
No, I think that would be. I think
that'd be awesome.
It's Crew Classic. I'm there in a heartbeat. I mean,
in a heartbeat, exactly.
Oh, I'm there always.
It's a really
but
important thing to have them close.
I dump my kid off in the tank. Like, yeah, for real. That East Coast humidity. I don't know.
I think if you had somebody at the regatta that was right there where you could go back and forth and check in, like if you're still breastfeeding at a regatta, the idea of going all the way down, but in the coaches section, in the athlete section, it has to be right.
Yes.
So
there has to be some balance there.
We all know teenagers that would chomp at the bit for this, give them a job on site. And it takes no effort to put together a little area for children to spend time and be safe and comfortable, right? Because I know some of the concerns are you're by the water, if you lose sight, or in some cases, some of the women here are uncomfortable having strangers. But now it's a dedicated service that I would take advantage of it in a heartbeat. I mean, I've been at the regattas where I've had my children with me, and I'm handing them off to people, and I hate that feeling. So knowing it's there, I think makes things a little bit easier. But another question I have is, what conversations have you had with your partners about this? Like, it's, as parents, it's a 50-50 thing. So is it just the case that because maybe you don't make as much money as they do, or because it's uncomfortable? Like, what conversations have you had with your partners to manage the children at regattas or in other times?
I would say that
my husband,
not a conversation. Sometimes it's a little bit of a fight, but one that's healthy.
Yeah. my husband came to certain regattas every year, right? So like he thought San Diego was just in the calendar and that's what you did every year, you know, and my children thought that too. And then, but if there were other regattas, like then it was up to me to figure out sort of the daycare after school or the transportation or whatever.
And is that because
my husband actually stayed at home with my kids when I was working at Ohio State, so it was really amazing. And when Andy was really supportive, and sometimes the whole family would come down on training trips, and that was hard for me because I provided attention, but it was amazing to have that segment. But that means that our income took a really big hit, and that was our choice, you know, like we decided to have one parent at home, and that was a big sacrifice in a lot of ways. But I felt pretty good about that. And we were constantly in dialogue, though pretty much being a coach trumped anything that was going on at home. If I had to go, you know, because the job dictated.
The dialogue that I would always have to, it was always dependent on the regatta site. You know, like when I was coaching at the NCAA level, it was, I mean, and even the junior level and some of these regatta sites, it's a hassle. If you are not part of the team, it is extremely difficult to bring the small children into the regatta site. Like if you are NCAA level, you're taking the bus with the general spectators, and then you're not allowed in the athlete area unless you've got credentials. Getting extra credentials for your family member is it's really hard sometimes. Junior level, same thing. Like you're part of the general population. So if you're having to take a shuttle bus, and if it's a child that's not walking, or you're bringing your stroller, a wagon, this and that, like, oh my gosh, now it's like, are you up to this, Mark? Like, partner of mine, like I love, like, are you up to this? Like, of course I would love the support and I'd love to have you with me, but we're talking about
also that moment, like I dream about this moment where we do something amazing and the person that I love, like the two people I love most in this world, can stand beside me and celebrate that, because that's what they have kind of sacrificed for me too, right? This time, this emotional investment, like, and I just, like, it would to enable that, right? Like I have to do everything in my power to get to that moment, but like to be able to turn around and see them standing there, like, you know, I have seen pictures of Derek on, you know, when he was at Oakland standing on the podium with his children. And to me, that was like this beautiful moment. And, you know, I want to share that with the people I love the most, or like, I want to turn and have that hug be my daughter looking at me being like, oh, this is the person, this is how it's done, you know. And I don't mean that.
And that is probably the most important thing about having your kids and your spouse around for all this big stuff, right? The big regattas, it is huge to have them there.
Where all the energy's going, you know. My kids always say, mom's going rowing, mom's going coaching, or mom's going, they know exactly where I'm going and spending time, but seeing what the end product is, even the excitement of a race, it doesn't even have to be a win, but the excitement of a regatta and watching a crew go down makes it all, I mean, for me, it makes it all worthwhile.
And so I want to define the solutions, right? So can we define things, say, starting tomorrow, here's a great thing that we can do. Like one is, okay, having daycare, childcare at regattas. Like, what are other things that we could start implementing tomorrow? Because you know what, and forgive me for preaching here, but it's like we have these conversations and topics. People talk about all the problems that we face, but no one really says, here's the solution. Rower's Choice, us, this group, this is an opportunity to define solutions and then try to implement them in some way. And that could, at a regatta.
I think coaching, like, that's a good question. I think the biggest solution is to allow these big time coaches to have a little bit more flexibility in their schedule, right? Like you can't, it's so hard when you're on 24/7, and you are, as a coach, that's what you sign up for, is to be 24/7 there for your kids, for the rowers, for the team. But then you have to have a little more flexibility when you have kids to get them where they need to be and do these other things, and not just be sitting in an athletic department for 8 hours.
One of the interesting things, Sarah was talking about, now that she's a head coach, it's a different responsibility or different relationship to being a mom. And I think that's a really, really interesting point, that being a head coach and being in charge of the schedule versus being an assistant coach and having to, your schedule is dictated by a whole nother entity. So figuring out how to support head coaches to hire families or women with families, and not shy away from that, because that, and giving them, same thing, giving them the flexibility to figure it out, because it does take a huge amount of manipulation in time and a day. And as an assistant coach, I can completely see how it would be like, I can't possibly do this. I experienced it. It was extraordinarily difficult. But as a head coach,
I think
go ahead.
Yeah, I think one clear solution is, just like we offered up, like childcare to regatta site would be magnificent. I think it just needs to be family consideration, needs to be part of the checklist of we're going to travel, we're going to train, check. Like we check in with our athletes all the time. Like, hey, how's school going? How's life going? Like as a coach, I've learned to also like share a little bit of what my life's going and how my my stress level is going. And so I think if administrators and regatta sites and whatnot, like I know I can secure parking passes and all that for my boosters, my support that's going to support my team, but it's incredibly hard to secure extra parking passes for my family members or extra credentials for my family members, which is my support system as like the leader, the head coach. So I think if like regatta organizers, you get your trailer truck pass, you get your booster truck pass.
And you get your
Coach,
family pass.
Do you need any family passes for just coaches?
Well, and Sarah, you made a good point. Sarah, you made a good point earlier, and that is that you said you're a better coach, not you're a parent. And I think that these head athletics directors need to remember that we are better coaches because we are parents. We care. We care about our own kids. We care about our athletes. We care about the success. We care about all that. And I think that that's what they miss when they don't hire women for these top jobs, is that they miss the fact that we actually really care.
Yeah.
Right? Well, the athlete is changing. The athlete is changing. Everyone is like understanding that team culture is like, the holy grail. You have to have a strong team culture. And I think if you as a coach can acknowledge that you are a human and that you are part of this culture and you are driving this culture because I have these real life experiences, that I feel like is what made me a better coach, in that I can share that I am literally multitasking right now, and I can share, my attention to both. Okay. Snack time is almost ready.
Mentorship. How can we create a culture of mentorship between women's coaches? I mean, and there definitely is some, but like, is there some sort of?
There needs to be more. We need to create that, and I think to get that is huge, and we should do it. We have to do it.
Solution, we talked about this yesterday, is creating a communication platform for that. So having 20 or 30 women, high leadership, saying, here we are, this is how you communicate to us, and we're open channels ready to go, and then promoting that. So on social media, at US rowing level, at any kind of level that people can go to. So you first need those mentors, right? Women that, or even sometimes men that could probably give perspectives too, right? I mean, there are women, coach women, right, who have great insight into that world. And they don't have to be, mansplaining or anything, but you just have men in those positions. And if young athletes at the ages of 12 to 15 or 16, 18 years old knew where to go to communicate to this, or 21-year-olds just out of college who have no idea how to make rowing a career, if they know where to go to communicate, then they're better off. So it just means like a governing body or a company saying, here are the women that we absolutely support, that are there to support you. And then it's up to those women to then answer the call, right? It's up to them to say, I will answer that question. I will be there for you. I like, if I had a chance when I was 18 years old or 19 years old, if I knew that I could reach out to Mike Tatey, Tom Terhar, or even like Steve Gladstone, if I could just have 5 minutes with those guys, then I would feel really comfortable asking specific questions on how to make it a career. And that's the solution to do for women.
You make a really good point, and I think we used to always talk about the old boys network and how the boys sit in the bar and they talk about work or whatever they do, and I think that that's the same with the women. Like, we need to also have that culture amongst ourselves where we just talk and have that communication, because I'm an open book. Anybody ask me a question, I'll give anybody the answer, but I don't think that women necessarily feel comfortable calling people and saying I have a weakness, right? Because it admits that we have a weakness, and I think that we have to be more comfortable with ourselves, whereas men are like, yeah, I don't know how to do this, and this guy does, so he'll teach me. So we have to do that, and we have to be willing to do that. We can't have all the answers, but we know people who have the answers. So let's reach out and get those answers.
I think that also, like, I think that even in that moment, I think we have to coach people to do the active part of mentoring, right? Because I think, like you're saying, like, yeah, I want to have the network, but like we have to sort of work on helping people take those steps. It's incredibly daunting to sort of reach out to somebody. And so
we all have lots of stuff going on. And so I don't know, like the idea for me even of asking somebody else to mentor me is like, I don't want to disrupt them, or I don't want to them, or they've got enough going on.
There's an anonymous ability, like you can have anonymity. I can't say that word. Somebody will help me out.
Anonymity.
Anonymity. Yeah, I still can't say it. But there's a way to do that, and you could have a platform, because in today's world, younger athletes or younger children, call them children, teenagers, are afraid to communicate this way, like talking, but they'll be happy to write an email. And there's many ways this can happen. There's many ways that you can offer advice and direction. And I assure you, having done this many times now, I've interviewed 200 people in the last 6 months. Everyone wants the same thing. So if we just created a platform for it, I assure you that the people that want to be mentors will say, I'm ready to answer those questions. And then it breaks down the barrier and the walls for the young athletes to say, oh, I'm comfortable now. I'm ready to ask the questions. We had a 21-year-old woman contact us out of the blue and said, I've listened to all your podcasts and I want to make rowing a career. Could you please help me? And it was because we said, we're here to help. And you know what? We found someone, and they're having a great time learning from one another. And now she has decided that she wants to make rowing a career, and she believes that she can do it.
That's great.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a short break, okay? And when we come back, we're going to announce the winner, okay? Because there is a winner here. And then we're going to say our final goodbyes. So again, if you like, dislike, agree, disagree, whatever, give us your feedback, give us your comments, and more from us in a couple seconds.
Hey everyone, this is Mary at Ninth Seat. It's a Coxswain education program that provides online camps and clinics, in addition to our flagship program, Coxswain Leadership Camp. All programs gives Coxswains the tools that they need to get their teams to the finish line as fast as possible. For more information, find us at ninthseat.com or find us on Instagram at ninthseat.
Well, we're back, and I joke about this, but this is it's subjective. It's actually just my opinion here. So I just choose the winner. And in coaches' discussions, there is no clear winner. But today, I'm giving it to the mother of 4, who just does not care where her children go.
Bad. You should have 4.
The funny thing is, she was late for the show, but she pulled it in. And look, she's the definition of like persevering motherhood. She's driving. She tells us, I'm on my way. She finally plays at Starbucks. So it's a hard-working coach. Beth Anderson, you are the winner of today's show.
Thanks.
Sarah, I'd like to start with you, our final goodbyes. And I guess a final goodbye would be, if you could give a 17-year-old or a 21-year-old woman some advice on if she wants to be an Olympic gold medalist or if she wants to make this a career, what would you say to her right now?
I would definitely say do it. Just go for it. The part of the route you should take is find somebody who's doing it right now, right? And just, get in contact with them, or if you can't get into contact with them, learn, study, become a student, and learn everything you can about how that person succeeded, and then try and make it your own and do it the way that you know how to do it. Be authentic, be brave, and just have fun.
Sarah, I really appreciate you being here. I hope you had a good time today.
I did. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Now, next up, Anna, rock star. You killed it today. Absolutely. You and Beth for the victory here. What advice would you give the young woman looking for a gold medal or a career in rowing?
One of the biggest things I've learned in both of those, in training for the Olympics and also being a coach, is to focus on what's right in front of you and take baby steps to get to the big goal, because the big goal is huge. It's a daunting task when you think about where you want to go someday. But if you take off little bits at a time and focus on what your goal is, or what you have to figure out right now, what the next step is, you get there. It's climbing a mountain one step at a time. And the steps are challenging sometimes, but you keep going. That's the other thing. You got to keep going. Don't give up along the way when you get knocked down, because we all get knocked down. We all get knocked down. We're all crying on the bathroom floor sometimes, and you just got to pick yourself up and keep going. And you can accomplish amazing, great things.
Anna, thank you for being here. I really hope you enjoyed the episode.
It was a blast. Yeah.
Good. Catherine, Starr, you're up here. I want to know, what advice are you going to give that young woman looking for a gold medal or knowing?
I would say just like go and make as many mistakes as possible, because that's probably, those are the lessons that I think you're going to learn the most from. So just like, don't be afraid of that. Like, just make a mistake, learn from it, and use it. And, you know, the moments you feel like you're learning the most and you're probably, I think, growing the most, are the ones where you literally feel like you're over your head or you're in over your head. So be there and live there a little bit, and it's going to be exciting and you'll learn something there. That's what I'd say.
Actually, really great advice. And that goes for anyone in life. It's not just the one out there. That's for anybody. I appreciate that. Now, I hope you enjoyed an episode of Coaches Yelling. Fantastic. I'm so happy that you were here. But the winner.
The winner.
Killed it.
Just the loudest, actually.
The loudest, however you want to determine the winning. But Beth, your last words here. What advice would you give?
So the same thing I tell my children, which there's nothing more important in life than having a passion. And if you're really passionate and you really work at whatever that passion is, you can turn it into a career. And my oldest came home and said, I'm going to major in conducting, like musical conducting. And I said, seriously, can you get a job in that? Because that's a good parenting advice. And she goes, Mom, seriously, you're a rowing coach. And I was like, touche, you win. So you learn that, like, if you have a passion, have that passion and just go for it. And, you know, you're going to get knocked down. Yeah, like everyone else said, you got to find mentors. You have to find that, but have the passion and stick with your passion. And it's okay if your passion changes. Just always have passion.
Beautiful words to close on. And those listening and watching, I hope you enjoyed this episode, part 2 of Mothers in Rowing. And again, if you like, dislike, agree, disagree, whatever, please give us your feedback and comments. We're looking for solutions. Okay, we're looking for solutions. Thank you for watching another Coaches Yelling.